Why Norway is becoming the world's richest country. Discover the secret behind Norway's rise to economic prominence, from prudent management of natural resources to a commitment to shared prosperity. Join us as we unravel the story of how Norway's forward-thinking approach is setting a new standard for global wealth. 20% of Norway's GDP, which is among the richest in the world, comes from the extraction of gas and oil. Fisheries, forests, minerals, and hydropower are further significant industries. Petroleum profits are put into the biggest sovereign wealth fund in the world. In Norway, we are celebrating an anniversary this year. We have been extracting oil, olje, from the North Sea's seabed on a large scale for the past 50 years, starting in 2021. That happened in 1971, and the first oil field was called Ekofisk. Located roughly 200 miles, 320 kilometers southwest of Stavanger, in Block 2/4 of the Norwegian sector of the North Sea, lies the oil field known as Ekofisk. Having been founded by Phillips Petroleum Company in 1969, this oil field continues to be one of the most significant in the North Sea. Following the drilling of more than 200 exploration wells in the North Sea, which was triggered by the finding of the Groningen gas deposit, this was the first oil discovery. Phillips began supplying 4 subsea wells directly to ships in 1971. It is anticipated that oil production will last until at least 2050. Norway has gained notoriety for being among the richest nations on the planet. By GDP per capita, we came in 4th place in 2020. We are the top-ranked entity in the world for possessing the largest sovereign wealth fund. In 2020, the sum of this fund was $1.275 billion USD. That's a significant sum of money for a nation with 5.3 million people. Nowadays, a lot of people claim that oil is the main factor in Norway's riches. But is possessing an abundance of a valued resource truly all that is required? Norway ranked as the world's 14th largest oil exporter in 2018, with daily oil exports of 1.2 million barrels. For example, even though Angola sold 1.4 million barrels of oil, a significant amount, it still lacked Norway's level of sovereign wealth. It appears that natural resources alone are not sufficient to build a prosperous nation. Additionally, how could that be? Maybe our lawmakers made a wise decision, or maybe it was just luck. Come and discover with me. To travel through time, a massive natural gas resource was discovered in the Groningen region of the Netherlands in 1959. Major oil firms, including Shell, Esso, and Chevron, became interested in exploring the North Sea for oil and gas as a result of this. Rewind. The maritime borders between Norway, Denmark, and Great Britain were not yet established. However, a few years later, in 1965, they did come to an agreement on the division of the North Sea, based on the principle of equidistance, which places the borders exactly halfway between the two nations. But things might have gone differently in this situation. The Norwegian Channel could have been the final destination for Norway's border. Off Norway's southern coast lies this long trench in the seafloor. Thus, a significantly larger portion of the North Sea would have belonged to Denmark. The notion of equidistance was emphasized by Denmark during its negotiations with Germany over their marine borders at that time. It seemed reasonable, therefore, that they approached Norway in the same manner. A vast oil and gas deposit was discovered beneath the North Sea's seabed by the business Phillips Petroleum around Christmas 1969. Ekofisk is the name given to this reserve, and that was right inside the recently drawn border between Norway and Sweden. Luckily for Norway, identifying the largest offshore oil field. At that time, Norway lacked the industry and technology necessary to extract oil from the ocean below, hence relied on foreign firms to carry out the task of finding and extracting oil. How then could Norway ensure that the oil revenues would benefit Norwegians directly, while foreign firms were performing the actual labor of locating and extracting the oil, and not just sending all of the money out of the country? Norway has a long history of democracy, and is lucky to have elected leaders who have prioritized the good of the nation before their interests. This is in contrast to corrupt politicians who only have their interests in mind and who allow private enterprises to dictate business regulations. Furthermore, in addition to the country's 27% income tax, I may mention that Norway levies a 51% tax on revenue derived from petroleum. This equates to an astounding 78% overall tax rate. Every penny goes into the state coffers. This would reduce the fund's value over time and defeat the fund's intended goal. Fortunately, lawmakers in Norway generally agree to stay on course and follow the plan. For example, the budgeting rule was lowered in 2017 from 4% to 3%. Dependency on oil. Despite continuous diversification, Norway's economy continues to be heavily dependent on the oil and gas industry. Simultaneously, the oil fund acts as a hedge against price fluctuations. The changing nature of global energy consumption necessitates ongoing innovation across all industries to ensure Norway's sustained prosperity, which has made it the richest nation in the world. Aging population. Norway's labor and social welfare systems are under increasing strain, as is the case with many wealthy countries. To combat this, policies that support immigration, upskill senior employees, and improve pension systems for long-term viability are needed. The effects of globalization. Being a tiny country with a high degree of economic integration, Norway is subject to outside economic winds. Remaining competitive necessitates ongoing adaptation and flexible rules to support developing enterprises and draw in talent from around the world, particularly given that Norway is quickly becoming the richest nation in the world. Oil and gas reserves. Norway's economy first benefited from the serendipitous discovery of significant North Sea oil and gas reserves. Prudent management. Rather than wasting its sudden riches, Norway showed extraordinary foresight by allocating its oil and gas revenues to investments for the long term and a sizable sovereign wealth fund. Think forward. Norway has successfully diversified its economy to include digital businesses, renewable electricity generation, and world-class aquaculture, in contrast to countries that primarily rely on limited resources. Shared prosperity. Norway is quickly rising to the top of the global wealth rankings while maintaining one of the most egalitarian societies on the planet. Widespread affluence is ensured by high wages, a strong emphasis on quality of life, and a comprehensive social service system. Norway's path presents a compelling example of fostering equitable growth and long-term economic success that contradicts the assumptions of oil-rich governments. Norway saw a sharp decline in its fortunes in the late 1960s. The North Sea's enormous oil and gas deposits were discovered, offering the possibility of revolutionary wealth. Norway, however, took note of the mistakes made by other resource-rich countries that had frequently given in to excessive expenditure and poor economic management. They came to a crucial conclusion: this windfall would be within control. Wealth from oil and gas. Norway set up a system in which the proceeds from the extraction of oil and gas were viewed as national savings for future generations rather than as an immediate source of income. Sovereign Wealth Fund, the government pension fund, global, also referred to as the oil fund, receives this revenue. It is the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, with a value of approximately $1.3 trillion. Norway is becoming the richest nation in the world, thanks to the profits from its wide range of international activities, ethical and long-term. The oil fund follows very high ethical standards when operating, except for certain businesses that respect human rights and environmental laws. Notably, Norway spends a very small portion of the fund's annual profits, keeping a laser-like focus on long-term sustainable value. This tactic safeguards Norway's future while converting a limited natural resource into a source of long-term economic stability. With wise vision and competent resource control, Norway is rising to the top of the global wealth rankings. Not only does Norway's government monitor this change, it actively encourages it. The strategy's main pillars include significant funding for research and development, subsidies for green innovation, and educational incentives. This forward-thinking strategy ensures ongoing economic growth by assisting emerging industries in establishing themselves. Norway has made calculated investments in these areas to ensure that, even if its oil reserves inevitably run out, it will still have a strong engine supporting diversified economic success. With this vibrant mix of businesses, Norway is rising to the top of the global wealth rankings and exhibiting environmental leadership and sustainable development strategies. Norway's exceptional standard of living for its people is what makes the country wealthy, not just its bank coffers. According to surveys of World Happiness and the Human Development Index, the nation is almost at the top of the list. What supports this success is as follows. Universal healthcare. Regardless of financial status, all Norwegian citizens have access to high-quality healthcare, encouraging a populace that is both healthy and productive. Excellence in education. From elementary school to university, education is free and highly regarded in Norway. This produces a workforce with the skills needed for innovation. Sturdy safety net, pensions, parental leave, and large unemployment benefits offer stability, reducing stress in society and promoting economic stability. Norway employs social expenditures and aggressive taxation to reduce income inequality. Increased opportunities for everyone, reduced economic concern, and improved social cohesiveness are the results of this strategy. A healthy, educated, and secure population is the result of the country's emphasis on shared prosperity. These are not just costs, these are fundamental strengths. This prioritization facilitates the efficient operation of Norway's economy. People flourish professionally when they have a sense of support. In the end, this spurs creativity and general prosperity, as it recognizes that the well-being of its citizens is the genuine measure of wealth. Norway is rising to the top of the global wealth rankings. Their dedication to social initiatives is a vital investment in a promising and sustainable future. Although Norway's extensive social safety, healthcare, and education systems may appear expensive, they represent investments in their most valuable resource, their people. Innovation, high productivity, and societal stability are produced by a population that is secure, educated, and in good health. Long-term economic thinking is best demonstrated by Norway's emphasis on diversification, fiscal responsibility, and future-oriented thinking. As Norway rose to become the richest nation in the world, it made investments in new industries, avoided booms and busts, and assured sustainability. In conclusion, Norway's rise to the top of global wealth rankings showcases the importance of wise resource management and investment in societal well-being. Subscribe now for more insights into Norway's success and join us in exploring pathways to sustainable prosperity.